So the fifth cascading benefit is independent mobility for wheelchair users. Um, right now, many transit services offer vans to help people who are wheelchair users, and many others own vehicles that they can operate. But for some, that's just not a possibility. So there's a movement afoot to develop what is called by one company is called the Kangaroo, which is an NEV that is adapted to work for wheelchair users, in that they can roll in from a ramp in the back all the way so that the wheelchair itself becomes the car seat, and can be strapped in, and then they can go places with easy to use joysticks and other devices. So let me share with you this video of an example so you can see how it works.
Basically designed and is now manufacturing and everywhere you turn, somebody's got a new idea. They're all thinking big, they're taking risks. There was a young woman, and she's basically designed and is now manufacturing a car that people in wheelchairs can just drive their wheelchair right into the car and start driving.
So you can see how innovators how innovators can create amazing products that can help people be included in our society who've had barriers that have really kept them outside and limited even their employment opportunities. So interestingly, a typical transit agency might spend $75,000 per year providing services for a wheelchair user who needs special accommodation. And this type of vehicle is in the range of $30,000. So a transit agency could spend $75,000 one year, including the $30,000 to provide a vehicle and additional services to go where that network didn't go or was too far, and still come out way ahead and with better independent mobility. There are 85,000 veterans in the United States who have mobility impairments and who need scooters or wheelchairs. This could be an amazing opportunity for many of them to regain independent mobility. So I think one of the most exciting aspects of lean mobility is what it does for people who have been marginalized for whatever reason. And wheelchair users have really had to fight for access. And it is in fact Stacy Zorn-Goad who is part of the brainchild of that device. Now, let's look at the next item. Item 7 of cascading benefits is economic opportunity. And to me, this is self-evident that when a small business person or a contractor or a landscaper or a food vendor has access to a vehicle that is very small, relatively affordable, and can be outfitted for neighborhood purposes, well, that just provides economic opportunity for people. It also provides opportunities we might not think of. Someone might take that vehicle and provide services that are shuttle services for their neighbors to get to a bus stop. There are all kinds of opportunities that will pop up, and we don't even have the imagination to think of all of the things that people, in ways in which people might use these. The 7th cascading benefit is resilience, economic resilience. And how do you assess that? Well, it really is, do people have the flexibility as individuals to bounce back, to recover from setbacks, to adapt to change? Because change is the constant in our world. And do communities have the ability to adapt to change? What I do know is if a community or a city decides to build a very expensive infrastructure project, say major highways, that may not be fully used or even needed in coming years, that limits future resilience. It saddles that city with costs. It saddles their taxpayers. So what we tend to look for is, how can people stay flexible, get what they need, and have the opportunity to participate in the economy and not be saddled with debt and not be put outside the mainstream. That small mode, that micromobility mode, might be the difference between having to transfer once or twice on a public transit route to get to work. That can be the difference between getting home to make dinner for the kids. That can be the difference between 4 hours on the roads instead of 2. So we need to look at, what is resilience in need? What do people really need to be able to adapt to change? Of course, one thing they need is to be able to continue their training and education. And again, this fits the bill. I was talking with one member of Congress about this, and he immediately sees that and said, students would love this. Students need this. Most students are on budgets. A lot of them are going deeply into debt. Transportation can be a factor that keeps them from being able to continue their educations. This is in the same way that I've talked to public housing experts who have said that in many cases, the factor that is holding the residents back is not the cost of market rate housing. It is the cost of market rate transportation. Even if they can find a place to live, can they afford what it takes to purchase and pay for and fuel and maintain and license a car that they may need to get that job? So it can be just as devastating a barrier as housing. Then let's touch on climate change. Clearly, this is a cascading benefit. For many people, it is the reason to pursue micromobility. It makes no sense to develop climate conscious young people care as much or more than anyone about the effects of internal combustion engines and big oil and oil on our environment. In my book, you'll find a bar graph that compares the carbon emissions of a single internal combustion engine car, conventional car size, with a neighborhood electric vehicle. And you will see that it is about 40 times more. A neighborhood electric vehicle, for example, uses about as much energy as your refrigerator. And a car, conventional car, in contrast, emits about 4.6 metric tons of carbon emissions a year? The answer is very clear. I want to share with you the picture that we all should be keeping in mind.